Oh,
Are we live?
well, we were supposed to be. I don't know what the hell happened there. All right. Anyway, hello everybody.
Hello.
We are here once again, and it's episode 243 of the Geek Matrix. You'll have to excuse me. My intro messed up, and now I can't remember what the hell it was I was doing.
That's not
Um,
good.
no, entire screen. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So you can see who it is you're talking to. It's us, the Geek Matrix. I'm Josh. That's Brandon. Say hi, Brandon.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about some comics.
That we are.
We're going to handle Nightwing, Titans, The New Gods, Detective Comics, World's Finest, and Challengers of the Unknown, and Summer of Superman special number one. Got some honorable mentions out there too. I read the first two, have not gotten to the last two yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to Zatanna. I have read Catwoman and DC with Sonic the Hedgehog number two. I had to read that with Dash, so that's where that priority came from. I will get to the other ones soon. And we also had an Absolute Flash number two show up this week, which we'll talk about at the end of the month. Um, Brandon, there any comic book news I should know about?
There is some. Just as soon as my computer decides to cooperate.
We're
I don't know what's
having
going
all
on.
kinds
Everything's
of
freezing
technical
right
fun
now.
today.
But yeah. Um, well, the first thing I saw, one that I wish Rob was here to join us, 'cause it seemed definitely like something that he would be pretty excited for. But we just received word. It's not said that like a news anchor. Um, for
This
anyone
was the
who also read the Summer of Superman special, yeah, this week there were a few advertisements for upcoming books in the back, such as Supergirl and Crypto and the Superman Unchained, ongoing from Dan Slott and Raphael Albuquerque. But there were a couple of new announcements. One that I think was rescheduled from a previous announcement, and one that is completely new. But I'll start with the one that I think Rob will be the most excited for,
and
is
what one
their
is that?
Treasury one shot. Feels like the 90s.
Oh
Superman's got
yeah.
a big jumbo sized Treasury one shot coming this summer, July 9th, written by none other than Mr. Dan Jurgens of countless Superman fame, with art
Mm-hmm.
from Bruno Redondo, which is very exciting. Hopefully, gets a chance to do the whole issue
That
because
would
I
be
would
nice.
definitely dig that. But yeah, essentially it's just going to be one giant sized Superman celebration issue. Doesn't seem like it's going to be setting up anything crazy, just a great way to celebrate Superman in tandem with the movie coming this summer. So,
Definitely.
Rob, if you're listening, which I hope you are at some point, I'm sure you're going to be super stoked for that. I didn't get a chance to post it in our Discord because I just remembered that that announcement came out this week. But yeah, pretty exciting.
Indeed, it sure is. Uh,
Um,
anything else?
Yeah, no, the next thing from the I guess announcements in the back of the Summer Superman special is, correct me if I'm wrong, but one that I think had been announced a little while ago, but then was canceled and said to be rescheduled, and who knows what the behind the scenes drama was, but that is the Adventures of Superman Book of L maxi series written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art from Scott Godlewski that's going to continue to expand upon the future state timeline that he established with the House of L. Um, and seems to be tying up some loose threads from his War World saga. And I won't get into it too much, but for anyone who followed that and also happened to read Green Lantern War Journal, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But definitely pretty excited for that, considering that one shot was among one of the better future state tie-ins. And
One
so
of the
it's
better.
always Cool.
literally the only one I would be interested in seeing any more
Well,
of.
that's not true, but one would merely need to dig through the vault of old recordings to find stuff of Josh raving over some of the future state one shots. But
Oh no,
anyway,
yeah, no, for sure. I'm not saying that, but by the end of Future State, this guy had magistrate fatigue.
yeah, it was definitely overstaying its welcome.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, pretty excited for this one. Mostly because it's really gonna give Johnson, I think, the room to expand upon the mythology he set up for the future House of L that I feel like he hasn't really been able to do with just the, I think, one or two one shots that have that have contained content about this stuff. So this I didn't say exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 12 issues total. But yeah, with 12 issues, I feel like really we'll be able to tell quite a conclusive story. Um, and hopefully, yeah, just I don't know, if not provide some closure to that saga that he set up almost 5 years ago, then
Right.
just continue to expand upon it and write a really solid chapter. So definitely looking forward for that, and of course, as someone who was ranting and raving about um, Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics run pretty much from the beginning, I'm always excited to see him do more Superman. So this is it's an absolute win for all of us, I think.
Yeah, by absolute badumtis. Um, that works for me. Hell yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
It was such an interesting uh, idea, it just it felt like what we got was just completely like it was setting up a whole thing, and then it just went away. That's what it felt like to me, and
Yeah.
I think you're right. I'm almost
I
sure
mean,
that it's been
it was just
canceled
this
at
really
least once. It might
almost
have been
ambitious one shot
twice.
that ultimately.
What? Wait, say that one
I
more
yeah, I
time.
don't know about twice, but I know at least once there was a time where they had to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, there's a fierce like echo going on. Hang on, I'm just gonna restart the page. I don't know what's going on.
Well, Brandon had some technical difficulties, so I'm just gonna sit here and fill a little bit of the void of time.
There we
And
go.
he's
Yeah.
back. Good deal.
Oh man, my computer can only handle so many tabs at once, and once it reaches its upper limit, it's like, all right, chill out.
I'm done.
Don't go too far. But there was one thing I neglected to mention, which actually should be pretty exciting for you as well. I didn't even realize it because I kind of was just skimming the announcement. But I didn't realize that in addition to continuing the saga of the future state House of L, this is also picking up where Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics run ended. So this is basically like the last chapter. Like all the stuff that was kind of
Oh, yeah.
left a little unfinished, the Krillux stuff and the Philosians and all the stuff that never really got the proper send off that we were kind of sad about. This is
Hmm.
basically them saying, okay, this is where we can finally give it its proper closure, which is awesome, but is a little unfortunate because I think they just put out the War World Saga by Philip Kennedy Johnson compendium, and I'm like, if you had just waited like 2 years, maybe even 3 years, you could have just put all of this in one giant omnibus, and it would have been much more satisfying. But oh well.
Oh, if you don't think they're gonna do that if this sells well, you're just
I'm
being
I'm sure
silly.
they will. I'm just like I feel bad for the poor SOB who bought that compendium and was like, "That's it? Like it's over?" you know? So, anyway, yeah, I
No, it was
like
definitely a saga. There wasn't no that's it, but there were
yeah.
some things like the Philosians and Krillix that did need to be uh, wrapped up.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if Ogun Flame will make another appearance as well.
Hopefully, yeah, because that was another thing that was set up that also never really got any payoff again because they wanted to shift creative teams, but um, was it Fowla or no, not Fowla. It was Osil I always get them confused.
Osil and Otha.
The boy Ra. The boy of the Super Twins had the fire of Olgrun in him, and there was
Yes.
a huge confrontation where Orion came to Earth and was like, "You need to turn that shit in now. Like, give me the boy, because it's way too
Mm-hmm.
powerful for a 10-year-old to have." And yeah, that never really got any payoff, just because it was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, he has it and it's in him, but that's it. Nyuk nyuk." But now it
Right.
feels like okay, we can finally get that. Hopefully, that proper closure to that story, and maybe we'll even see the emergence of Olgrun himself. Who knows?
That would be pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
You got any? Was there any other news?
A couple of other things. There is a where is it? A new announcement coming in the summer for again my computer is just does not want to cooperate. Um,
Oh no.
so if you can't hear me, let me know because
No,
yeah,
I can hear
everything's
you just
freezing.
fine.
Okay. So around July, they're doing, I guess, the same thing that they did about a year ago, when Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman all went on hiatus for about a month, to do that Gotham City Sirens 4 week special miniseries. And I guess it sold well enough that they're going to do it again. So this year, um, in July, they're doing yet another Gotham City Sirens miniseries, I guess following up on last year's miniseries. This time, 5 issues Gotham City Sirens Unfit for Orbit, written again by Leah Williams, with art from Heining, who I think did that. What was that book called? Spirit World,
Mm-hmm.
with Alyssa Wong.
And Monkey
Um,
Prince, I think. Or no, that was
yeah,
King.
I think he did some issues of that later on. But yeah, I don't think I was here when you guys reviewed Gotham City. I'm pretty sure it was vacationing also at that time. But I don't know. I came back and had a chance to catch up and read Gotham City Sirens, and I mean, wasn't winning any Eisner awards, but I kind of walked away from it thinking it was pretty funny. Um, so I don't know. I have like moderate expectations for this. Not expecting it to be great, but hopefully it'll be fun like the last series was.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it's not going in anybody's highly you need to read this list, but it was an enjoyable little deal. That's for sure.
Mm. Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
see. I had
Yeah.
one more thing. Oh, that's right. So, um, comic fans, maybe even die-hard comic fans, depending on how much you follow up on comics news, might be familiar with the many, many claims of acclaimed writer, magician, guru Grant Morrison, who frequently finishes a project and says, "All right, that's it. This is the last one. I'm never doing another one." And countless instances of when this has happened after Action
Countless.
Comics, after Multiversity, after the Green Lantern, after Superman and the Authority, probably after New X-Men 2, but I could be wrong about that. Like, it just, every time they finish a major project, it's like, okay, that's the last one. I'm tired of it, and I want a break, except much like that X that you kind of still like, but can't really break up with, they're never really gone. Which is my long-winded way of saying, according to some untrustworthy but possibly trustworthy sources, Grant Morrison will be coming back to the Big Two for some unnamed major project. So let the speculation begin.
Oh
But
man.
at this point, we have no idea whether it's going to be DC or Marvel. All we know is that they had mentioned doing some work on their Substack Xanadu, for one of the Big Two, and Who knows when that'll be coming out? Apparently, it's partnering with one of his favorite artists. That could be literally anyone. It could be Frank Quitely. It could be what's his
Frank
face?
Quitely
Could be
would be cool.
Cameron Stewart. Could be Tony Daniel. Could be anyone really. But I don't know.
I'm really
I'm
pulling for
excited
Quitely.
and I'm also nervous because I don't want to be disappointed, but I also don't want to hype it up too much.
Fair enough. I know Rob's really pulling for Secret Crisis.
Yeah. Which, good luck dying on that hill, buddy.
He really, truly believes it's gonna happen. I
Oh
don't know,
man.
man.
If it was ever going to happen, it would have happened. Obviously, things have moved in a different direction, and it is very surprising that DC and Marvel are willing to work together, considering the tension between the two editorial departments for quite a long time. But yeah, like I said, I'm not holding my breath for that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Be turning blue.
Mm, yeah, but yeah,
I'd
I don't
love to
know if
have Grant
you have
Morrison write that if
any.
that was it. No, I don't have any news other than I would love to show you what showed up at my house yesterday,
Oh,
which
nice.
ended up being rather um, quite the serendipitous coincidence. We have my man here,
Oh, very nice.
Barry, looking damn good in this costume. And he came with
Oh, look at that. Look at that guy.
Titano.
Yeah. Yeah,
Look
what
at
a
the
weird coincidence for this week.
size difference.
Yeah. It was
This
massive.
guy is, yeah, he's massive. He won't even fit, he won't fit sideways on my shelf back there.
Mm,
Not standing straight. Like I have to angle him. He's not highly articulated,
yeah.
but he's sculpted real well, and he'll make for some alright poses.
Mm, that's awesome.
Hell yeah. Very happy about that. That was a pre-order I forgot to cancel and would have. but
Well, too late now.
yeah, that's what I said. Usually I set up a calendar reminder for me if, that way if I can't follow through with it, but apparently I missed one.
Mm.
And I'll take it. And yeah, quite the quite a little bit of serendipity there. But I guess if that is everything, we should probably get into our books.
Sure.
All right, then the first one we'll handle is the Summer of Superman special number one. And I just kind of ran through all of this real quick and gave it a summary because there's three chapters, but it's pretty easy to wrap up.
Mm.
So Summer of Superman,
Summerman.
Summerman, Summer not.
He brings the sun and horrible sunburns.
Summerman of God damn it,
That's going to get stuck in your head.
it is. It's done. Summer of Superman special number one. With quite the creative team. Chapter 1 is written by Mark Waid, Chapter 2, Dan Slott, and Chapter 3 by Joshua Williamson.
This
Art.
is like a creator jumble combination. Like if you had asked me 5 years ago, would Dan Slott ever do a book with Mark Wade? I would have thought you were joking.
Right?
Let alone
I can't imagine
Superman.
Dan Slott being at DC alone working with Mark Waid.
Yeah, he's like Mr. Marvel Company man.
Mm-hmm. At least he used to be. Um, and chapter 3 by Joshua Williamson. Art throughout is from Jorge Jimenez with some art finishes in chapter 3 by Belen Ortega. And the epilogue art came from Dan Mora. Lettering was done by Dave Sharp, and the cover came from him, Jimenez and Tomu Mori. So, real quick, chapter one is a flashback of Clark and Lana being so close when he was Superboy, and that's pretty much it. Just showing how great of friends and great of friends that they were, and Clark's little crush that he had on her back then. Chapter 2, Lana is worried a super threat will ruin her wedding day because that's what happens every time they try to do something nice. And then Validus shows up. Trashes stuff. They beat him. They have the wedding. Lana was right. And then throughout, they make a ridiculous amount of references to their super senses, like, according to my super senses,
They do have
which
super
is so
senses.
ridiculously Dan Slott. But nonetheless, uh, chapter
See, it's funny you
three,
say that because I feel like that's got to be a Mark Waid thing. He and Grant Morrison love their Silver Age references. It's their era after all. So the whole
I
super
mean,
senses, super hearing, super breath, super TM is very much them.
right. All right. And then finally, chapter three. The wedding has happened. They go looking for Validus after. Find out that he realize that he keeps showing up in the same spot. They pull him back into this time and beat him while asking him why he's here with the help of Omen because of her psychic abilities. And he finally says, well, I guess more of a gargled roar, I guess, yells Omega. And Omen was there, probing his mind to find out not just that and get him to talk, but also to find out that he's scared and running from something. It ends with the super fam having pizza together. Epilogue. Somehow, Booster Gold is who sent Validus to Earth, specifically at times that Clark would be near. He's in the absolute universe. He thinks it's the future, and he's chained up being held by Darkseid's legion of supervillains. Quite the flipping story.
I'd say,
Um,
yeah.
it it was it. You mentioned could you ever picture the two of them together? And I can't imagine enjoying something from the three of them.
Yeah. Well, I will
Certainly
say
not together.
it was not surprising to see that they were all written separately because even though this issue was, I assume, co-plotted by all of them, it's not surprising that they all kind of wanted to, do their own chapters so they could let their own voices shine. But I think the one that was most surprising to me was I had to be Dan Slott because I don't really know what expectation I had for his understanding of Superman's voice, his personality, that sort of thing. Because I remember a little while ago you had mentioned, you said something about Al Ewing having this like undeniable Marvel style, which I didn't really agree with, but I understand what you were trying to say by that, and that's definitely how I feel about usually about Dan Slott's stuff. I mean, he is the de facto Marvel guy. He's one of the few ones who still uses the Marvel method of writing.
So
Um,
like that, I got those two swapped around when I was talking about that.
mm. Well, I think you were talking about it in reference to Metamorpho, so you were
Yeah,
it was the
but yeah,
right,
it was doing it
but
in reference to Metamorpho, but I was
yeah,
confusing Slot with Ewing.
yeah, but anyway, no, it was I don't know. I was like, is it does that work? His voice for Marvel characters, while it can be controversial at times depending on what situations he's putting them in, does that work for DC? Does he have an understanding of the characters enough to make it sound comfortable? And unlike reading that free comic book day Man of Steel preview from Bendis like 7, 8 years ago, this was like, yeah, he fits in like anyone. I don't know. It was surprised. It feels
Turned
like it
out
doesn't
just
do it
fine.
enough justice. It was like it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
He fits in like a puzzle piece. It's just like, all right, cool. I
It
don't know if that
works.
will translate to every other character in DC, but if this is how his Superman is going to be, yeah, I have nothing but decent expectations for Unlimited. And here I was
He'll
thinking that book was going to be carried by the art. It probably still will be, but
well, uh, you know, Slot's gonna take. He's gonna make use of his super senses and make that happen.
yeah. Yeah.
It's, altogether, I think I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I feel about the same. I gave this one a 7.75 out of 10. I was over the moon seeing Superboy back definitively in continuity. I know it's controversial. There are people who hate the concept of Superboy, but confession time. I don't even know if I've talked about this, but I love Superboy. I always have. It was like one of the first comics I ever bought, believe it or not, because they were really cheap. And I don't know, when you're like 11, 12 years old and it's like, hey, Superman but younger and he's awesome and he has powers and everything. Like, what's not to like about that? It is literally the power fantasy for you as a 12-year-old. So I always loved Superboy, and I always kind of resented some of the retcons post Crisis that tried to pretend that that whole era didn't happen. But it seems like particularly Mark Waid really wants to lean into the there was a Superboy before there was a Superman. I think the only thing that I'm still a little iffy about is the concept of Superboy being as well known as Superman, because it kind of diminishes his major reveal in Metropolis. I kind of liked what Jeff Johns was able to do in Secret Identity, where he was still active in Smallville, and people in Smallville knew about Superboy, but it wasn't like the world knew about him. It wasn't like people in Metropolis or Gotham City knew about him.
Yeah,
So
that's odd.
yeah, we'll see how Mark Waid handles it, but I think I prefer that, just so it kind of really emphasizes the major reveal of him in Metropolis as Superman. But with
I mean,
this
that's a
story
key part
alone,
of his story.
yeah, I mean
So,
it just, I don't know, it makes it for such more pivotal part of Superman entering the public sphere. But anyway, no, for this issue, like really solid stuff all around. Like I said, the Superboy stuff sold me, and obviously you have Validus, another Legion of Superheroes connection. They're really teasing us out with this. I feel
oh
I'm
yeah.
being strung along until the inevitable Legion announcement comes, and I'm disappointed again. Or maybe not. We'll see. But no, the issue was fun. Definitely some great teases for the future, and looking forward in particular to how the Booster Gold / Omega Legion story plays out soon. So
With the
seven point
Justice League
seven five out
versus
of
the
10 for
Legion
me.
of Supervillains.
Yeah. Well, this is like Omega Legion of Supervillains.
Yeah,
Honestly, I'd love to
Darkseid's Legion
see.
of Supervillains.
I'd love to see like the regular Legion of Super Villains with like what is it, Lightning Man, and basically the evil versions of the Legion of Superheroes from our
Right.
universe face off against the Omega ones. I wonder who'd win, but I'll write that in my own fan fiction, I guess.
Well, yeah. Technically, I consider them to be like the crime syndicate of the Legion, so I automatically gonna make them lose in my canon.
Or I'm sorry, not Lightning Man, Lightning Lord.
Yeah.
I'm losing it, man.
Uh, well, don't. One of us needs to keep
Yeah.
it. All right, and with that very corny pun, I'm gonna let you move on over to Dick Grayson.
Gladly. Nightwing number 125, written by Dan Waters, art and colors by the legendary Francesco Francavilla, and letters by Wes Abbott. For anyone who's been a little on the fence about Dan Waters' run on Nightwing, feeling that it was not quite what you would expect Dan Waters to do, which I don't know that I would agree with, but I've heard some chatter about that. Read this issue. This issue, I think, is like this is gonna make the difference,
Mm-hmm.
because this feels like a complete tonal shift. Well, maybe not complete tonal shift, but definitely feels more in line with like Coffin Bound or some of the other stuff that you might have read from Dan Waters before. So our issue starts when Officer Frank Dietrich is shot and killed outside Hogan's Alley by a mysterious figure. So it's up to Commissioner Maggie Sawyer to solve the mystery of his murder. after a chilling conversation with Dietrich's widow, which reveals more of Dietrich's staunch, law abiding personality. Sawyer is confronted with Nightwing, who offers to help her, despite his current levels of mistrust towards the BPD. Excuse me. Nightwing leaves behind a communicator should Maggie need his aid, though she blows off the idea initially. After reviewing a ballistics report of Dietrich's death, Maggie gets an anonymous call from an ex cop asking her to meet at a location for more information about the killer. Maggie then arrives at the apartment of Sergeant Leopold Holm. The sergeant reveals the story of the man who polices Bloodhaven's police, and I really had to resist a "who watches the Watchmen" joke or some kind of reference there. I wanted to do it, but I didn't because it's too on the nose. Like, who
Well, that
polices
wouldn't
the
have stopped
police?
me.
I just couldn't do it. It was too obvious. But anyway, the story of the man who polices Bloodhaven's police, a figure known as Captain Hollow. When officers fail to abide by the two principles of the BPD, which are respect the land and respect Bloodhaven, Captain Hollow will come for them just as he came for Dietrich. Just then, the telltale fog of Captain Hollow appears from under the door as Hollow has come to punish Holm and arrives right at that moment. He manages to grab. Oh, whoa! I skipped ahead. Has come to punish Holm and Maggie. In a desperate moment, Maggie calls for Nightwing on the communicator, and Nightwing arrives right at that moment. He manages to grab Hollow's cloak, but not before Hollow had a chance to throw Holm out the window and disappear into the night. So we got a murder mystery going on. Classic. But not just any murder mysteries, a little supernatural to it, a connection to old Bloodhaven, weird, creepy conspiracies. I'm like, okay. I really dug the
Dan
first,
Waters.
like, 6 chapters of this arc, but this is Tan Waters. Like, unapologetically, especially if you're reading Dark Patterns, the Batman book he's doing right now.
Which is
Um,
so good.
which is incredible.
And
Plus,
he did Arkham City,
yeah, that was like the first dip into Gotham.
and oh my god, that was so good.
Yeah.
And I mean a little bit more what you would expect from Dan Waters, but this is just I was excited to see what he would do.
Mm,
And I'm not disappointed. It has been a bit of a slow crawl, but it's all been set up, and now it's just like it's game time.
yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Bringing up Superman vouching for Maggie Sawyer says she should be a good cop and a good commissioner, and she just might be, according to the book. I don't know who Sandman 3.0 is yet, but Waters is he's definitely making me want to find out, as is typical of me in Francavilla. Sometimes he doesn't land for me. It's
Mm,
usually just in a few panels in a book, and it's usually faces during action shots,
yeah.
uh, which is funny because he's so good at faces and literally any other kind of situation. But man, altogether, it's just a pretty dang solid issue. Great story, pretty dang good art, and I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah, no, this one got an easy 8.5 out of 10 for me. I'm a sucker for a solid murder mystery. And when it's done by, like, the best noir artist out there, except for Eduardo Riso, um, how could you not love it? So, this really feels, like I said, like the classic kind of Dan Waters creepy murder supernatural kind of story that I was expecting, and hopefully the payoff is definitely worth it. So really looking forward to the next issue of this mini arc.
You know, I'm surprised you didn't throw Otto Schmidt into that little list of noir artists that
He's not
you're a
really
fan
a
of. I guess
noir
it's not.
artist for me though. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
I've
that's
never really
not his
seen him
shtick.
do it. Yeah, I mean it's usually more almost horror, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, ish. Well,
Mhm.
like not quite horror. What the? He did one book, and I think that was a Batman. Anyway, that's a rabbit
Yeah,
hole
well, horror,
with a
horror
bad
and
memory.
supernatural, I'd say. Like there
Yeah,
was, I'm thinking back as early as Green Arrow, which is the first time I would have really seen his stuff, and that definitely had. I mean, it was pretty action heavy. Don't get me wrong, but like with the Ninth Circle and the creepy mask imagery that they had throughout that, there was definitely a supernatural horror esque to that. And then obviously there's DC versus Vampires. So yeah, I can't
It's good
really
stuff.
honestly. He might be pretty good at it, but I feel like I've never seen him in that light before. But
We
yeah,
have, and I want to say it was in Batman.
I mean he did an annual with Tom Taylor, but
Maybe
I,
that's what I'm thinking of.
yeah, I feel like that didn't really use his skills potentially as a kind of noir inspired artist. You usually think of a lot of like shadow and smoky imagery and that sort of thing, and I haven't seen that yet, but maybe you never know. That's why Eduardo Riso is the best.
I'm a Sin City sucker, is what you're saying.
Ugh, well, I would be if he did Sin City, but that would be 100 bullets. But I do love Sin City
Oh yeah,
too. I would be surprised if you did, considering your pure, unabashed hatred of Frank Miller.
I hate the way he draws Batman. Drives me fucking bonkers, man.
I'm just like, if you hate the big
And he,
Batman, like, I don't know how you could read freaking Marv, who's like a tower, whose proportions are beyond
but
belief. But I love
Marv
it because
is
of
a
that.
different character, different kind of character. He's not
Mm.
Batman. He jacked up Batman. And he messed up
Sounds like
Batman.
you're
He's
making
like
excuses.
he made pre absolute Batman
Yeah, and it was awesome. But we're not gonna have this
with a
debate again.
horrible carry, horrible carry. All right, yeah, no, you're right. You gave it a 7.5, or excuse me, I gave it a
Eight
seven
point
point
five.
five. You gave it an 8.5. And Dick was flying solo, but let's put him with some others in another book and call it
Oh,
the Titans. Titans
are we
22.
allowed to? Are we allowed to talk about that on the show?
That ain't
That
none of your
seems kind of
business.
inappropriate. Like,
I'll mark this episode as explicit.
yeah, I'm like,
Um,
look, we might have to put an NSFW tag on this because I don't know how much we can get away with talking about Dick flying solo and then getting ready to work with a group.
oh, um, I think that's all you. All right,
Yeah.
so Titans number 22, written by John Layman, with art from Daniel Bayliss and lettering from Wes Abbott, and a cover from Pete Woods, who I just appreciate more and more every time I see him on a cover. Uh, a good chunk of this issue is us finding out what's up with uh, Deathstroke, how he got out, and some surprising news. He was last seen basically dead in the past, and now we know why. And now we know why it looks like he's been taking his multivitamins. Tara found him. She weaned him off the painkillers and the sedatives, and worked the powers that he had back in during Dark Crisis, and cranked up his healing factor. Now we go to the present. Deathstroke's crime syndicate interrupts a prisoner transport to make a couple withdrawals. One, to rescue Killer Frost, who is a villain again now. Remember, after she had a tantrum on the watchtower, now she's a bad guy. They also released Volcano Man to distract the Titans while they took off. And they take him down with Cyborg boom tubing him into the river. While the fight was going on, Venadia was spitting out facts about things, and after the fight, Cyborg tells Donna that it surpasses what he programmed her for, and they'll be talking about that later. Uh, Roy and Donna are going to be talking about their thing later, and then we wrap up with Beast Boy sick and tired of Deathstroke and thinking that maybe the guy that they thought was dead really should be. And he says it with bared, sharp fangs. Not his normal ones, these ones look like a shark. Um, I've been interested in this story since its start, and I feel like it's really starting to pay off now. This new crime syndicate is the best crime syndicate ever, syndicate crime. Uh, it makes me wonder a thousand things, and the dynamics we see between the Titans are good, with the exception of Donna and Roy, which that I guess could be good, but we have seen them tangled up before. It doesn't usually work out. Um, It's also worth noting here that for the last little bit now, it sure seems as though Starfire has been flirting with Dick quite a bit. This is great. I love it. The art,
You
the
love
story.
that they're flirting? For
No, I
shame,
meant
sir.
the series.
Mm,
Um, I do not endorse um, I do not endorse promiscuous dick.
again, I don't think we can talk about that on the show, but no, I'm right there with you. I've decided, and I can't remember if I said this in the last episode, but I've decided to put, and it sounds bad when I say it like this, but all the expectations I had for this series being as big as it was supposed to be, upon launch, and just kind of put it in a box and not think about it and enjoy the story, which I was from the start. But again, I felt like a broken record every month coming back, and I'm like, this is fun. Like if it was any other Titans run from 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's really solid. But it has that added punch of this was supposed to be the Justice League answer. Um,
Which is very
but
true.
yeah, so I don't know. I'm putting that away, and I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is, presumably for as long as it lasts, because I'm scared every day that maybe this series might be on the chopping block. But no, aside from that, it is an interesting twist seeing Tara kind of taking charge in the relationship with her and Deathstroke. Obviously, she had been a little bit more subjective in the older days, not so much a partner, and had worked with Deathstroke during the Defiance arc during Rebirth,
Hmm.
but her really basically saying I'm calling the shots now is an interesting flip on it. So hopefully there's a nice payoff there for this weird version of the Crime Syndicate. Um, as for
Better
the
version, I think you meant to say. Let me fix that
well,
for you.
I think that's a take that you agree with. I have no problems with the Crime Syndicate. Um, but in terms of the Titan relationships, yes, I agree. Donna and Roy is usually a disaster waiting to happen. But I'm like, I mean, I made a joke about the ex that you can't get over and you kind of keep going back to, and I'm like, at this point, I don't know. Why don't you just put them together for good? Like they have so much history together. Why not have them get married? Is that a bad idea? Probably, but worse things have happened. I mean, Green Arrow married Black Canary. How much worse could it get? So,
Oh my god.
yeah,
How much worse can it get?
yeah.
For who?
Yeah, that's the question.
I mean, I want you to close your eyes right now and imagine laying in bed every night to a guy whose entire diet consists of chili.
I don't ever want to do that.
But Dinah loves him enough too.
But Dinah loves him anyway. I don't know, because the sex is too good. He's a great
I,
crime fighter. I'll let you decide. But yeah, no, I don't know. I like those dynamics, but I'm wondering if they should really just like commit to it for a few years instead of having them be like, oh, maybe we can get back together, or I don't know, like kiss a couple of times or hook up, but we're not like dating or anything,
yeah,
because that seems to
yeah.
happen every time.
Either
So
either put it away or do something with it. Don't
thank you. Yeah,
do
no, I
the
agree.
back and forth shit.
But yeah, no. Aside from that, another solid issue. And I don't know. I hope that it continues to just be a very solid run, no matter where it ends up from here. So 7.5 out of 10 for me.
Yep, and an 8.25 out of 10 from me, and that'll I'll keep liking this title as long as they don't give us promiscuous dick. Um,
Good lord,
next
you and your
up,
promiscuous dick today.
you don't like my promiscuous dick?
I think I could do without it. I think I could do without it.
I mean, you have so far. All right. By God, it's the new gods.
Ah, great. God, I want to get out of here. The New Gods number 5 is written by Mr. Ramvi, with art this month from Andrew McLean doing some guest work on the first 4 pages, and Evan Cagle, colors from Francesco Segala, and letters from Tom Napolitano. This one is a chunky issue. I mean, not literally, it's the same amount of pages, but there's a lot going on, so bear
Oh
with me.
yeah.
Um, since childhood, Light Ray has been haunted by the Black Racer and has sought the answer of what happens to new gods after they die. He receives different answers from Highfather, Metron, and Orion before Light Ray finally comes face to face with the Black Racer himself, who tells him that his long sought after answer will come, but only when Light Ray has earned it. The racer challenges Light Ray to a race, one that will occur each time they meet, and only when Light Ray is caught will he gain the answer he seeks. As Highfather, as we saw in the last issue, unleashes the full wave of the Source, in this first wave of the Alpha effect, he comes face to face with the leader of the Niktari, a man who calls himself Karak Ator, and reveals that, or Ator reveals that he has faced false gods before, recalling when Darkseid raised his homeworld. After finding solace and power in the Niktari, he gives Highfather an ultimatum, to which Highfather responds by obliterating him entirely. Or so Highfather thinks, as Kairak is able to reform himself and reveal that the power of the Niktari is older and far more powerful than Highfather's. My powers are more biggerer than yours.
Very bigly.
Karak Karak launches an attack at Highfather and wounds him, taking a moment to reveal that Darkseid's other son, Graven, who I completely fucking forgot about, is working
Right.
for the Niktari. Like, what a callback there. He launches the Omega effect at Highfather, but before it can land, Light Ray arrives and blocks it before having Highfather sent away. Light Ray then faces off against Karak and Graven alone before being struck with a blade by Karak. Metron informs Highfather that despite the fall of Sirtuin and New Genesis, there may be hope yet on Earth, and on Earth, as Orion continues to struggle with Barda and Scott over the child, Kamal's powers explode and knock Orion off his feet. Momentarily dazed, he recovers and feels excitement as, for the first time in a long time, he can fight with the full extent of his powers against a fucking child. What a mental
Baby.
case. He gears to
And
attack.
this is coming off of him wanting to kill a little kid here not too long ago.
Yeah, yeah.
What
Uh,
the hell's his problem with kids?
what is up with Orion and infanticide? I don't know. I
I
really
don't
don't
know.
know. Um,
There's a squishies.
I guess I'm like, just chill your bloodthirst for a moment,
Right?
sir. Anyway, Orion gears up to attack, but before he can even land the punch, Superman arrives to stop its momentum, and that's where our issue ends. Jam packed and full of action and drama and really sad moments with Light Ray.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, really stellar. Right from the opening, which I got to be honest, I had to read a couple of times because even I was like, some of the stuff was kind of going over my head initially. But when I really dug in and found myself thinking about it, I was like, yeah, there is a beautiful poetry to the fact that Orion has been haunted. Orion, Light Ray has been haunted all his life by the Racer, and now is finally going to find the answer that he seeks, but arguably in the darkest time of New Genesis's history. So really great stuff there. But unfortunately, much as I had hoped in the previous issue, we do not get to see Highfather go beast mode on the Niktari. He kind of like uses his power in full force, and it's pretty cool for a moment, but then he gets his ass whooped. And I was like, what a disappointment. Because I was really hoping to see him go all out. I wanted to see the warrior Isaiah, not the
Yeah.
well, I'll use some beams, and then when they don't work, I guess I'll just kind of tap out Isaiah. Oh well, little disappointing, but still some great storytelling here. So this one got an 8.75 for me, as always. Favorite book of the month, but gotta say, very misleading cover, which is nothing new.
Yeah.
But like, if you were expecting the Justice League to show up and help uh, Mr.
Make
Miracle and
things.
Barda, they do not. They are not anywhere to be seen in this issue, except for the last page when Superman shows up. So
Yeah. And there is no Wonder Woman and John Stewart.
yeah, don't
A
get your
little
hopes up if you
premature,
saw this
if not
cover.
misleading.
Very much so. I mean, I assume they'll be in the next issue. Who knows? But it's a shame because that cover is awesome, and
Hmm.
nothing like that happens in this issue.
Nope. Not even close. Um, yeah, so you covered the Corey, you covered the cover. Um, the story inside, though, I mean, I can't believe that I'm watching what is like the fall of New Genesis. And the crazy part is that New Genesis is only falling now, essentially, because Darkseid is dead.
Yeah.
The person who wanted to tear it apart. What a story about balance, which is really what the New Gods was completely built on. And I loved it. Honestly, though, I feel like the art's been a little better, but I'm not going to complain too much. Uh, the issue is great. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Quite easily 8 out of 10. Um, Next up, Detective Comics, written by Tom Taylor. Written by Tom Taylor and art and cover by McElligott, with excuse me, with
Oh.
inks from Norman Ratman on pages 1 through 11 and lettering from Wes Abbott. Well, Asma isn't Scarlet, so who the hell is? Batman's on the case for about 1 page. It's Dr. Forster, the redheaded boss, but she's covering up for Elixir. Except it's not really Dr. Forrester because she died decades ago. We find out that she is indeed Evelyn, and it's all for Bruce. All the killing, all the murder. She calls herself Martha's Vengeance, and it leads to her trying to kill Joe Chill in front of Batman, but he stops her. Bruce later meets with Scarlet and talks to her about setting up a new facility after the dismantling of Faultless in the prison. And then we get an epilogue with a man with red lenses in his glasses talking to Asma, promising her that her daughter is safe as long as she keeps her mouth shut. And that's the issue. Looks like we're not quite done with Asma yet, and that's okay. I kind of like the idea of this character,
Mm.
considering herself the vengeance of somebody that throughout comics has always been considered one of the most compassionate people in DC. Um, I'm curious to see where this goes and who this organization is. I'm fully all the way in, and I mean, not to mention how much I absolutely love the art. It's completely fantastic. 8.5 out of 10 from me.
So, help me understand a little bit more of what Asima's plan was supposed to be, because I feel like I'm still a little unclear. Like the whole plot of trying to
Was
kill, I guess,
setting
juvie
things up.
kids was
Setting things up. No, no, no. The Juvie Kids isn't all her. I'm assuming the Juvie Kids has to do with the guy with the red glasses who's the faultless.
okay.
Uh, but I mean, she was just basically tied by association to that. Her thing was all the killing that she was doing and everything that was it was all designed to lead up to her and Batman being in the same room so she could kill Joe Chill in front of Batman and let him watch and experience the relief that would give him.
Hmm.
That he should be celebrating the death of Joe Chill.
I see.
She
Okay.
she thought that that's what was going to happen. No, nope. She went to jail instead.
Yeah. Should have known. Yeah, it was a little unclear. Like why? I mean, I know that they kind of needed the blood of the youth. To
To
help
do
with
the
the
serum,
whole
right?
the whole serum for preserving or rather bringing back youth, which still is a hilarious plot point to me because it's literally like a QAnon conspiracy. But
But
but yeah, I
think
was
where it came from.
right. Yeah, I wasn't really sure like what the grander plan was, if it was like to prevent those kids from growing up and ending up like Chill or something. I don't know. But like you said, it seems like maybe she was just doing it on behalf of Elixir. So
Yes.
that makes more sense. Yeah, no, I mean, solid ending. Like you said, I imagine Asima will be back. Sounds like Elixir and these mysterious others. have greater plans for Gotham City. I am hoping that this doesn't turn into another long, drawn out mystery a la Heartless, because, as Rob has frequently said, Detective Comics should have stories with detective work and mysteries and not just grand conspiracies all the time, because it gets a little played out. And we literally just had a 2 year story with that, with the whole Orgum saga. So I'm hoping it does not turn into that again. How many fucking mysterious families are gonna show up in Gotham and be like, actually, we have a grand plan for this city? And I'm like, yeah, buddy, that worked out so well for the others. But
Get in
I'm
line.
just like, don't fall into that trap. It's easy. Don't do it. There are other stories you can tell beyond mysterious organization tries to seize control of Gotham City, because it never works. It never, ever works. Anyway, rant over. Aside from that, story was solid, decent conclusion, and looking forward to, I don't know what kind of effects Bruce's relationship with Scarlet Martha Scott, and also the whole mystery of Elixir will have in the future. So, yeah,
Yeah,
8 out of 10
there's no
for me.
telling, really. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right, well then I guess we'll move on over to the next one. We got a little bit of Batman here and half Batman right there.
That is correct. Yes, half Batman, half Superman, but it's not a fusion like you would expect. They are separate this time anyway. Story is still early. It could happen.
Who knows?
Um, but this is Batman Superman World's Finest number 38, part 1 of the I almost called this Tomorrow Never Knows. The Beatles song. No, We Are Yesterday, part 1 of 6, the Justice League Unlimited World's Finest crossover, written, of course, by Mark Waid, with art from Clayton Henry, colors from Tamara Bonvillain, and letters from Steve Wands. This will be a pretty quick one, as it's mostly just setup, or rather a flashback setup for the impetus of what's happening with Grodd. But basically, the gist of it is Wayne Enterprises is testing a new fighter jet, and Bruce Wayne is basically giving himself a nice little trophy for having invested so much in military technology that is successful. Also, I should mention, the plane is being tested by none other than Hal Highball Jordan. Things are going well, but unfortunately, something is messing up with the instruments inside the fighter jet, causing it to completely go out of control. So Hal Jordan has to eject, and kind of disappears, fades off, which looks mysterious. They're not really sure what's going on, and that's when they get a communication from Jordan, who has been taken hostage by the members of Gorilla City, but more specifically, Grodd and his new acolytes, who are now declaring war on the human race. So Flash, Superman, and Batman make their way to Gorilla City, which up until this point had been kept secret, out of request from King Solivar. But as they arrive, they are immediately ambushed by Grodd's guards. Superman and Flash make quick work of them because they are super fast. But at a rather unfortunate time, who should strike but Titano? And then this is the part where Josh puts up his figure of Titano, so you can see if you're not reading the issue. But yeah, Titano, the ape with the kryptonite eyes, who's able to subdue Superman, um, so that he can't do any more harm. Barry is trying to find Grodd so that he can stop his mental control, but is quickly knocked back by some weird kind of force field, while Batman goes after the missing Hal Jordan and manages to find him in prison with King Solivar. Um, but as Batman talks to Solivar, he reveals that, or rather, quickly finds out from Barry that it seems like maybe Grodd trying to overtake Gorilla City and declaring war on the human race was not the only plan that he had attempted to achieve. And that's when Batman realizes that there was another reason for luring them to Gorilla City. Grodd shuts off Titano and then quickly switches minds with Superman, or rather, had already switched minds with Superman, so that he can now be the ultimate warrior. Immediately takes on a French invading force now that the cloaking device had been stripped back thanks to Tano. And Batman is quickly looking for ways to get Grodd out of Superman's body. Solivar, however, is basically quick to say, look, Superman's a big enough threat, and regardless of if you can get his mind back into his body, it's better to just kill him. So he's trying to basically subdue him with as much kryptonite as to kill him. While Batman has the genius idea of bombarding Grodd into Superman's body using the Flash and forcing his mind back into Superman's body, which manages to work. But of course, Grodd is pissed. Barry is able to knock him off quickly, but not before talking sense into Zolivar, who is still using the kryptonite eyes. After they're doing a little bit of cleanup work and order has been restored to Gorilla City, Superman informs him that he was able to pull the troops out of Gorilla City and hopefully keep things steady there. But the city has been revealed to the military forces, and by extension, the world will soon know about Gorilla City, which is unfortunate for them, but they'll do their best to keep it under wraps. While Flash basically tells Sullivar to keep Grodd under the tightest possible wraps that he can, just to make sure that he does not escape again. In his cell, Grodd is sitting, reflecting on his evils. Probably not. When a mysterious portal opens and we see the Grodd from the future, the one that we saw most recently in Flash, traveling back into the past and bombarding his own mind into the past Grodd's memories in order to bring his vengeance into the future. And that's where our first chapter ends. Pretty solid. I would say it is a fine setup issue, but in terms of like really bringing the energy, I don't know that it's fully there. Like it was a fun read. It's always nice to see a Gorilla City plot, but I feel like for it to really effectively sell me, it needs something that's a little more captivating. The art is good. Great work from Bon Villain and Clayton Henry all around. But I just feel like this is a serviceable setup chapter, but it doesn't really have me super excited just yet. So gave this one a 7.5 out of 10.
That's pretty interesting. First, let's start at the end. Um, it's nice to see Gorilla Grodd getting into the Easter spirit and all, but it kind of looks like somebody spilled egg dye all over his headpiece here. Past that, I'm a Grodd guy. I'm a Titano guy. I love the bad monkeys, man. I love the bad apes, and
But you
this
don't
was a
love
good
JL
story.
Ape, which
But
feels a bit like
not,
hypocrisy.
yeah. Is it though? These are characters, not crossovers. But I think this was a good story. I enjoyed it. I'm curious to see what part two is gonna look like. The art inside's really nice to look at. Clayton Henry has gotten so much better over the past 5 years. I found this to be a really good time, especially for a book that I don't typically enjoy. This got an 8.25 out of 10.
Dang, you rated it higher than I did.
Yeah, by quite a
That's
bit,
high
actually.
praise.
By quite a bit. All right. And then we have one more book to go, and it's pretty dense. So deal with it. Challengers of the Unknown #5, written by Christopher Cantwell, art by Sean Isaacsi. How do you say that?
I usually just say Isaacs, but I don't know if that's
Isaacs?
true.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm sitting there trying to figure out what it might be, and I
yeah.
keep on getting Isaacsy, and it's not.
I don't think that's quite right, but
I
you
don't think
know,
so either. It's just what wants to come out of my mouth
yeah.
when I see that, like Summerman of Super. Um,
And what else did you say? Your dick
Elephant Man.
fascinations?
I, you're the one that was pointing out the dick. I was
You
merely
were
talking.
making too many references to it. This is a kids' show.
Write it down. All right. So, oh yeah. Art by Sean Isaacs, Amanke Nwalpen. Colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr. and lettering from Hassan Atsmani El Hau. Uh, the Justice League wants to get to the bottom of things, so it's time to break out Diana's lasso of truth. No point in trying to lie now. The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding tastes like Darkseid. They're infused with his energy, and it's not. It's and it's not. Um, Ooh, boy, I just murdered that sentence. Um,
It's all good.
they're infused with Darkseid's energy, and it's not just them; it's the other members of the Challengers as well. It seems quite literally everyone but Rocky. They get a little out of line, so Diana decides to hit reset on the Challengers, smashing her bracers together. She causes a huge boom of energy and knocks everyone all to hell. Haven't seen that in a while, though. That's pretty cool. And knocks everyone to hell isn't quite literal. That's absolute Wonder Woman. But back to this one. The Justice League is gathering all of the challengers together, trying to decide what to do with them. And their best idea right now is a medically induced coma, really close to death, when they're literally infected with death. Maybe not the smartest of ideas. And that really pisses Rocky off. So, Rocky, obviously the smartest out of all of the challengers, decides that to save his friends, the smartest thing to do is shut down the power to the watchtower, which is just sitting behind a regular door and literally all in one switch. Click. Diana knocks him out, but not before he's able to shut the power down. And now it's 20 minutes until power is fully restored. They've got gravity, they've got life support, and that's about all. Right after Batman remarks that their defenses are down, Ultivac shows up. But the bad guy here isn't even the bad guy. It's Omega Energy. It's sent Ultivac, taken over all the challengers, and it's going to use them, and likely others, to track down a massive source of Omega energy somewhere. The challengers are basically funneling themselves into Ultivac, and the Watchtower itself is turning into an Omega Rift. Rocky acts on a hunch, trying to confront Ultivac as to why he doesn't have Omega energy in him. With the challengers fueling Ultivac, it appears as though they may be speaking through him. It doesn't go well as Ultivac stabs Rocky through the chest, then talks to him in the afterlife, and he learns from Rocky that life is better than death. Uh, Might be a little bit too late now, though. Ultivac and Rocky disappear then from the horizon. I'm kidding, they're not gone. They are back at Challenger's Mountain and the town of Hadley, which should not be there because it was destroyed a long time ago. So somehow they're in the past. Um, Man, I don't know if you can tell from my summary, but this book had a lot going on. It,
Quite a lot.
yeah, it felt a bit dense, but it was definitely there to set the mood of every page, and it did its job. The story, the art, the everything about this book makes me need to read next month's book a lot sooner than 30 days from now. It's such good stuff.
Uh,
8.5 out of 10.
oh, I I almost don't want to say it, but um, you do know this is the last issue, right?
Oh no!
Uh, uh,
No!
I really wish was not the one that had to burst your bubble there, but yeah, unfortunately, this is a 5 issue series, so good Lord knows when this story is going to continue or where. But that's why that last note said the Challenger story will continue across the All In saga as opposed to see you next month. I know it really is a bummer, but yeah, this is I don't know. This is a weird ending
It is. Like,
because
it definitely didn't feel like an ending.
well, that's sort of the problem. Like it feels like it should lead into another issue, especially
Yeah.
because there's still the cliffhanger from I want to say issue 3, with like all the challengers basically saying they're going to go to war with the Justice League that has had no payoff, and I guess never will, depending on how they choose to continue this story. So I don't know. It's kind of making me reevaluate the series and whether or not this should have been a miniseries or if it should have restructured itself a little bit more so that it actually felt like a complete story in 5 issues. I don't know. So I didn't give this one a score because I'm not really sure how to feel about it. I'm not really sure how to feel about the series as a whole. If the story continues somewhere else, I feel like I can come back and properly rate it, but it just, yeah, it feels incomplete. And that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so disappointed that this is it. I mean, who the fuck ends a book at number 5? Look,
Well,
guys,
we
it's
did just end
multiples of
Black Lightning
3,
on 5, but
and it shouldn't
uh,
have happened.
yeah. I mean, look, you can do a very successful, great 5 issue series. That's not a problem. I'm just like, if you want to write a story, write it so that it fits 5 issues. But if you have a bigger story, actually do that story if you have the sales and bandwidth to do it. Otherwise, write a story that's more fitting for 5 issues and don't set up a bunch of stuff that who knows when there'll be a payoff. So that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it was really fun reading this book, and I'm sad to see it go. But I'm like, maybe this, I don't know. Maybe this wasn't the best way to go about it. I don't know. It's like I said, I got to think about it a little bit more. I'm feeling weird about this one.
Yeah, I can pick that up. And I can understand why. Now that I'm sitting here all bummed out about
Yeah.
it.
Again, I'm sorry I had to break the news to you, but I didn't
Hey,
want you to be
somebody
hopeful for a
had to.
book that was never going to come next month.
Somebody had to. But all right, well, I guess that is all of our books.
Man, we roared through it.
Hell yeah, we went through there pretty fast. Man, I'm noticing like when it's just two of us, we
Mm.
we we we, we don't talk quite as much.
That's because we lock in. But also, and
Fucking
Rob, if you're
A.
listening, I'm putting the blame on you. We do tend to get into a lot of tangents.
Oh
Real
yeah,
shit. When
that's
Rob and I will
yeah.
record together, sometimes that episode will go for like 2 hours, sometimes longer. But when it's you and me, we're focused, we're locked in,
Locked
we
in.
got this. You keep the
This is
train
about the
moving.
books.
When it's Rob, it's like, hey, fucking, let's talk about Transformers, and it's a lot of fun. But we do get off topic a lot.
Oh man, do we ever? But that's all right. That's what hanging out with friends is, and
Hell yeah.
we are geeks, so that's a okay. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do our top 3 this week. Mine is gonna be World's Finest. Second place is Detective Comics, and I, first place I gave the Challengers of the Unknown. Now I'm all bummed about it, but I really
It's so
did
bad
enjoy the
bursting
book
your
itself.
bubble. Yeah.
Yeah. But my favorite moment this week is going to be seeing Booster. He's in bad shape. I don't like that, but at least he's alive, and that I'm a fan of.
Mm.
Now, when it comes to our favorite covers, we've got Challengers, World's Finest. I'm taking a peek through here just to make sure that I still hold firm in the choice that I made. And I did. My favorite cover this week, because of how simple yet gorgeously drawn, and its lack of words. Um, I'm gonna give to Detective Comics. I just think that cover is so fucking cool.
It's very striking.
Very striking, very indeed. Um, but those are my favorites. What about yours?
Oh man. Well, at number 3, ooh, let's see. I'm probably gonna give that one to the Summer of Superman special. Number 2 will go
Show off.
to Nightwing, but number 1 has gotta be the New Gods, as usual. Completely knocks it out of the park each month. No surprise that my favorite cover also is going to the New Gods, even if it is horribly misleading, because again, the Justice League is nowhere to be found in this issue. But my favorite moment
Anywhere.
has to come from Batman Superman, where Superman as Clark Kent is, interviewing Bruce Wayne about the jet and the investment, and Bruce is kind of bragging, saying like, "Oh, you know, it'll be champagne all around at the office, and you can quote me on that." And Clark says, "Billionaire pats self
So
on back."
that
I was like, "All right,
was awesome.
I like that one. I like that one."
Yeah.
Even better
Great
that the jet
dynamic when it's
fucking
written right. It's
explodes like 2 pages later. So so much for that investment.
right. And I loved how I loved how in it Bruce was like besides, if anything goes wrong, Hal can Green Lantern the solution and, it'll be all right. And that's when Bruce finds out. Clark tells him, Hal doesn't wear his ring on, while he's
He's like,
flying a plane.
"What?"
It ruins the thrill. And then he says, "You'd know that if you hung out with the Justice League clubhouse." Or
uh,
Justice League friends or whatever.
yeah, Justice League meetings or whatever.
That was
It's like,
that was
oh,
fantastic.
well,
The
just
whole thing.
that and his reaction when he hears that he doesn't wear the ring. He's like, "Oh God, my money! What if he
Yep.
crashes?"
So, oh no. Because now all of a sudden this doesn't seem like a great idea.
Now all of a sudden, I can't really brag about it because there is a real possibility I will lose all of the money I invested in this plane.
Yeah. A world of trouble for sure. Um, but I suppose that is it. That is
I
all.
suppose so, unless there's anything else you want to add.
Titano.
I mean, yeah.
But other than that, I think that's it. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back next week covering all of DC's weekly releases. Same geek time, same geek channel, and that is the show. Be careful out there, and remember, in the Geek Matrix, everybody has a home. In the Geek Matrix, you are not alone. No Rob,
See ya.
no finger gun.
Uh, not this week.